Johnny Manziel will become even bigger in the city of Cleveland.
Stephen
and
A.
Harden flops.
I don't know how you do it.
Don't ask for help.
I don't know how he does it.
Leonard. Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard.
I've watched so much Skip Bayless.
How about them Cowboys? Oh, woo, woo, woo.
And my team have had countless debates about him. I mean, it's so bad that I've even seen Skip Bayless in my nightmares. They're almost as bad as the ones Cowboys fans have about this play. But with the hours I've spent watching Skip Bayless, I think I finally figured it out. Figured out why everyone loves to work with Skip Bayless. Now, many of you might think that you already know why people love to work with Skip Bayless. I mean, working with Skip Bayless means two things. You're gonna get paid and you're gonna have access to a huge platform to take your career to the next level. And who wouldn't want that? But while this is part of the reason why people love to work with Skip Bayless, that's not the whole story. But to really understand this phenomenon, I have to address the elephant in the room. Skip Bayless rubs people the wrong way. And it's not just the Twitter trolls or the occasional thin-skinned athletes, it's everyone. Fans, athletes, professional teams, Charles Barkley.
Like, if I get a disease and I'm gonna die, how about get Skip Bayless in here and I kill him live on national television?
But worst of them all, Skip Bayless even rubs his co-workers the wrong way.
What were you, Jalen? What were you?
Where were you? Did you average 1.4 points as a senior in high school?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so all of that Pistol Pete stuff, Water Pistol Pete Jr.
Okay.
What you just heard here was Skip Bayless questioning Jalen Rose's credibility as a basketball analyst. But just in case you didn't know, Jalen Rose played 12 years in the NBA and averaged 14 points and 14 assists per game. And that's far from the only example of Skip disrespecting his colleagues. Just recently, he accused his former partner Shannon Sharpe of being jealous of Tom Brady. And let's just say the Hall of Fame Titan didn't take those words fondly.
You're willing to take a personal shot at me to say this man is better than me because I say he's playing bad this year?
Now, with years of Skip disrespecting his co-workers, you're probably wondering why people still want to work with Skip Bayless. Well, it all has to do with this character Skip plays on TV, and he's been evolving and perfecting it for decades. Now, before I really dive into this, I just want to acknowledge that I don't think Skip is a complete actor. I'm sure he believes a lot of what he says, especially when he's talking about them Cowboys. But he definitely adds some unnecessary seasoning with his takes. That being said, we can't get into the character that is Skip Bayless without talking about cold pizza. So if you don't know what cold pizza is, you gotta listen to this. It's a sports show on ESPN that lasted from 2003 to 2007. It would cover all things American sports, from highlights, news, interviews, and yes, debates. Every show, Skip Bayless would debate Woody Page and other opinionists on a short segment called First and 10. And here's how Skip behaved back then.
Star in the NBA right now. The most overhyped, the most overpaid. He's Kevin Garnett.
So you might have watched these clips and thought, this isn't anything new. Everyone acts like this. And yeah, that's true. But in the early 2000s, this wasn't the case at all. Skip Bayless pioneered this type of brutal and admittedly funny sports commentary, and audiences ate it up. And that's why Cold Pizza was eventually rebranded to The First Take that we all know today. And more importantly, this new show was 2 hours of constant debate. No interviews, no news, just a group of peers rambunctiously arguing with each other. And this was the time where Skip Bayless would make a change in his character that would alter the way of sports media forever. Instead of just debating about sports topics that were in the news cycle, he would pick a few people and a few teams and debate about them almost every show. The first one was Tim Tebow. And his bosses were not at all happy about these changes. Despite the increasing ratings, they even thought his Tebow takes were an incomplete act.
They had accused Skip Bayless, meaning the public, of being a caricature of himself.
But at the end of the day, the numbers never lie. So Skip decided to push this strategy even further. And that's where we get to one LeBron James.
Standards, there is no way that LeBron James is already a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Clips like these went viral all over social media, generating free publicity, which made First Take the highest rated show on ESPN, even more than the historic Sports Center. With all of these ratings, Skip's popularity and fame was higher than ever. And he was about to use this to secure a huge bag. This is when Skip Bayless left ESPN to get paid by FS1. And it's after this switch in employer where we see a paradigm shift in how Skip Bayless talks about sports. It's no longer good enough to just talk about these big name athletes all the time. Every topic has to somewhat circle back to them no matter how irrelevant they are. Just take former Celtic Gordon Hayward's injury as an example. I am really sorry to remind you of that, but the point is that you would assume that most people's response to that would be to send thoughts and prayers, but Skip had different plans. He decided to make this all about LeBron, tweeting, "If Gordon Hayward is gone, LeBron's path to losing a 6 finals gets even easier." And even after getting backlash from NBA players and just about everyone, I couldn't find a record of him apologizing, which is a theme with Bayless. And we all know about the DeMar Hamlin situation, where Skip decided to just question why the outcome of an NFL game suddenly seems so irrelevant after Hamlin collapsed and almost died on the field. And just watch Skip refuse to apologize for his statement.
No, clearly the bosses wanted you to offer explanation, so clearly somebody...
No, they did not have... Nobody...
Let's go, Jen.
So you're probably wondering why FS1 still employs Skip after all of these controversies. The truth is, he just gets too many eyes on screens for them to get rid of him. You have to remember that for decades, ESPN was by far the leading American sports media network. So in order to compete with them, FS1 had to pay big bucks for big personalities. And Skip Bayless checks all of those boxes and more. Now, to be clear, Skip's statements are generally not as insensitive as these last few examples, and his opinions usually aren't the problem. It's the way he says them and just how outlandish and dramatized he makes them.
Somehow the ball bounced
No,
to
let's go there.
Bosh,
Let's go there.
and it went to Ray Allen. Oh, Ray Allen made the 3 that
You know what?
saved LeBron's career.
Skip was a social media troll before social media became popular. And just like those trolls, their entire intent is to rile you up by making you feel that growing fireball of frustration and anger as it fills every vein and bone in your body. Anyways, now you might think that this business tactic just doesn't work, and eventually people get so accustomed to it that they'll just ignore it or be completely turned off by it. But it just never gets old. And it's because he's oddly familiar and relatable. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but just hear me out. We all have that one family member or friend that is an absolute homer about everything. And we also know someone who loves to be a hater and a troll. And the even sadder reality is that we are all homers, haters, and trolls. Sure, most of us don't act as absurd as Skip Bayless, but as strangely as it sounds, we all have a mini Skip Bayless inside of us that reveals itself from time to time. But that fact alone isn't what makes Skip Bayless so addicting to watch. It's how he makes you want to see him get destroyed. And I've been baited by this so many times. As an Eagles fan, watching Skip Bayless, a Cowboys homer, get destroyed is so satisfying. So every time he would falsely predict that the Cowboys would beat the Eagles, I would get ready to watch the next episode of First Take or Undisputed to see reactions like this.
My turn. You told me it was my turn.
And this is exactly why people love to work with Skip Bayless. He just makes his partners look so smart. Just check out this clip where Skip Bayless is talking about Kobe Bryant. I can find thousands of clips just like this, where Skip says these triggering statements that get obscene reactions from his partners. And as a result, you start to become a fan of those partners because they're the ones that are fighting for the truth, fighting for you. And don't just take my word for it. Take Stephen A. Smith's.
Skip Bayless played a role in restoring my career that I felt had wrongly been taken.
And for Shannon Sharp, Skip turned the Hall of Fame Titan from a man that was fired by CBS to a household name in American sports media that now has a successful podcast and is an opinionist in one of the top shows in American sports. But the thing is, Skip Bayless is changing, or at least it seems like that. He's playing the role of the agitating troll less and less. He's also relatively recently started a podcast where he still does say outlandish things from time to time, but in a much calmer manner. And he's even taken on the role of being both an opinionist and a moderator on the new Undisputed.
Trey's not, I want to say this, I want to say this right. I know I have.
What you just saw is Skip Bayless being unable to speak on the new Undisputed, which we all know is very unlike Skip Bayless. But the question is, why is he changing? Well, I don't want to speak for Skip Bayless, but it's probably one of two things. Either he's getting older and wants to be a bit more laid back, or more likely, he understands that the sports media industry has changed and there's no going back. Look, we all know that social media changed the way we consume media in general, and I'm not gonna lecture you about that, but it's also fundamentally changed sports media. No longer are our favorite analysts, opinionists, athletes, and personalities on cable. they're on social media. And when we watch the postgame show, it's not on cable. It's on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or any one of these social platforms. There has never been a surplus of sports creators like right now. So if I want to watch a Cowboys Homer meltdown, I can find someone crazier than Skip Bayless on YouTube. If I want to see a LeBron hater, I can find thousands of them crawling through my Twitter feed. And let's be honest here, a lot of us are getting more and more desensitized and repelled by these outlandish takes and reactions. So those same platforms that made Skip Bayless so viral are the same ones that might remove him from relevance. But seriously, why start the podcast and why become a moderator? Well, the answer for becoming a podcast is actually pretty simple. He's trying to bolster his social media presence. It's the same reason why First Take is starting to produce YouTube exclusive segments and why Stephen A. Smith has started his own podcast. They've started to realize what's been happening for a while. More and more people have been moving away from cable to watch sports media and onto social platforms. So to stay relevant and diversify their audience, these companies and cable personalities are forced to move to social media. As for becoming a moderator on Undisputed, I'm a bit unsure as to why, but I think this is his way of trying to change his image, but I seriously doubt it's gonna work. Just hearing Skip talk so calmly seems so unusual and with all due respect, a bit disingenuous. You simply can't change the fact that Skip Bayless built his media empire by having a trolly personality overnight. Now I know that this video has really focused on the negative aspects of Skip Bayless, but he isn't all bad. He represents the idea that no matter where you come from, if you work hard, you can still make it. Yeah, I know this sounds cliche, but just hear me out. Skip had to deal with an impoverished, alcoholic, and broken family, and was still able to become one of the biggest American sports media figures ever. That's beyond impressive. So while you should remember Skip Bayless for all the irritating, agitating, arrogant, and straight up hurtful things he said, you should also remember Skip Bayless for this.
Still behind. Hey, yeah, come on, Skip, don't do that now. You being real petty, bro.